Welcome to the candidate forum for the two positions that are open on the Reading City Council. Many of our normal ways of doing things have needed to be modified due to the pandemic. That means that the League of Women Voters forums are taped and made available to voters online. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. Our chief purpose is to promote informed and active participation in the political process, and we never, ever endorse candidates for office. We do our best to provide as much information as possible directly from the candidates, unfiltered, to help voters make their decisions.
There are 6 people on the ballot to fill 2 open seats in the Reading City Council. They are Adam McIlvaine, Mark Mazzano, Jack Munns, David Robbins, Monique Boleen, and Julie Winter. Questions the candidates are going to answer were sent to them prior to recording. Here are some reminders about voting. County Elections Office begins sending vote-by-mail ballots to California voters on October 5th, 2020. There are 3 ways to return these ballots. Ballots returned by U.S. mail must be postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, or you can turn your ballot in at any polling place on Election Day, or you can place it in a secure ballot drop box by 8 p.m. on November 3rd. Please return your vote-by-mail ballots early if possible. If you prefer to cast your vote in person, you may do that at your local polling place. If you prefer to cast your vote in person and not by mail, you can go to your precinct polling place and vote there. This forum is organized in this way. Each candidate will begin with an opening statement of up to 3 minutes. Then they will respond to the 6 questions sent to them in advance, and they will have 2 minutes to give their answers to each question. The forum will conclude with closing statements of up to 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is David Robbins, and I am running for Reading City Council. I am a father of 2, a gig delivery driver, and a student at Shasta College. During my work, I talk to different workers all around town, restaurants, stores, etc., and I see people risking their lives every day during the COVID epidemic for no increase in compensation. The compensation isn't adequate to afford rent and utilities. I see people struggling. As a student, I see lack of education and employment opportunities. I would like to correct these things. I am running this for City Council to represent the working class and the people that are struggling and that have been left behind in our current system. And thank you for your vote.
My name is Julie Winter, and I am running for re-election to the Reading City Council. I've served on the council for the last 4 years and was the mayor in 2019. I've lived in Reading for 31 years. My husband Mike and I moved here and raised our 2 sons here. 3 of my 5 grandchildren live here in Reading. I'm a nurse practitioner with an active medical practice, and I was the founding member and served as president of my local professional organization. I've served on several boards, including Advanced Reading and Bethel School of Technology. I've served on the city's Community Development Advisory Committee, and I've served on and am a member of numerous community groups with broad ties in our community. But when you boil all of this down, I'm a mom, and I'm running for the same reason I ran in 2016, to make a brighter future for our kids. I want Reading to be a place where our children, our grandchildren, can have a future and don't have to move away. We've been through some significant challenges in the last 4 years, and I am so proud of how far our city has come in spite of those challenges. When the car fire hit, we responded quickly, getting up a website for one-stop information for people, and we streamlined permitting. When the budget crisis hit, I jumped in to help us solve a $30 million budget deficit and create a 10-year plan for financial sustainability. I supported our COVID economic response plan, which has poured millions of dollars into our local economy. And I've supported public safety by hiring 7 police officers, which have dropped our response time in half. I also supported our wildfire mitigation plan that's hired 19 firefighters and has created a plan for reducing brush within our community. I've served on the city's downtown collaborative and am heavily involved in downtown revitalization. I've pushed for a pro-business culture, and the city is poised to come out of COVID well. This is the time to elect experienced leaders who can get things done. In the next 4 years, I will continue to push for increased staffing in our police department, maintain a budget that is financially sustainable, work with our downtown business owners and keep the momentum going. I will support projects that provide more affordable housing and work with the county and the community to come up with solutions for homelessness. You can find out more about me at juliewinter.com or on my Reading City Council Facebook page. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack Munns, running for Reading City Council. I was born and raised in Reading, had a great childhood here in Reading, went to Enterprise High School, attended Shasta College, and life was good for me. I traveled a bit, landed in Santa Cruz for about a year, then I went to Idaho and then landed in Reno, Nevada, where I worked in the casino industry for about 7 years. And then I got hired on the Reno Police Department in 1989, holding various positions, hostage negotiator, field training officer, sergeant, promoted to sergeant, where I trained new-coming sergeants and new-coming police officers. I moved back, I retired in 2010 and moved back to the city I love. My wife is from here. We moved back with my sons, Joshua and Justin, who are 3 and 5. And now they are 15 and 13. So it was a great time to move here to raise my kids back where I grew up, where I enjoyed life. And that's what I came back for. But what I found out is I've been back for 10 years that the city I left is not the city that I came back to. Crime is on the rise, homelessness is on the rise, and taxes are high. There's no affordable housing. There's lots of challenges that face us today. And I'm running for city council because I think I can make a difference. I have a platform. You can go to jackmunns.com and see all of that. And I would appreciate you supporting me.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to use this platform so I can use this platform to speak to some of the issues that I find that we face as a community. I, with a genuine heart, only want to help elevate and empower our Reading citizens to know they too are a part of our city's growth for a more sustainable future. Collectively, together, we can be innovative and solution-oriented. Life is about potential and purpose, because I only desire to work for the people, with the people, because our government is made up by the people. I am blessed to even be in this position of being able to run for a public office. And I thank you all so much for your time and energy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adam McIlvaine, Mayor of Reading, and I'm running for re-election to the Reading City Council, and I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd. I'm a father, a husband, a business owner, a veteran, a graduate of Simpson University, and our current city mayor. I have kept all the promises that I made to you 4 years ago, and I want to continue that good work. Our police department is stronger, faster, and better prepared. Our response times have dropped significantly, especially for Priority 1 calls. We have also completely rebuilt our CSO program, and total crimes have dropped every year for the past 3 years in a row. Our fire department is as big as it's ever been, and we are far better prepared for wildfires. We are currently in year 2 of a 5-year fire mitigation plan that will help prevent any future catastrophic wildfires in Reading. We are also seeing economic development throughout our city that we haven't seen in a generation. There's more than $700 million of investment pouring into our city with a focus on our downtown and downtown revitalization. The City Council has also taken steps to ensure that our city is prepared for the future, and we're working on our Reading Broadband Master Plan, and this June approved the first 2 phases of that plan and are about to begin construction on a 26-mile fiber ring throughout our city. We have many challenges ahead of us, and there is still a lot of work to do, and I would like to continue to serve you for another 4-year term on the City Council and am asking for your vote this November.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. I first want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing this opportunity. I think it's an excellent decision to do it this way to get the message out to the voters. My name is Mark Mazzano, and I am a candidate for the Reading City Council. And if you don't know me, let me tell you that I'm from Chicago. I'm one of 7. I'm the oldest of 7 children raised in Chicago. And I moved to California back in the 80s. I joined the California Highway Patrol in 1983 and retired with honors in 2011. Prior to that, though, and if you're interested, I went to Northeastern Illinois University. I worked in the budget office while there, and I was a lifeguard for the city of Chicago. So I've been a public servant for a long time, and that was back in the 70s. From there, I took a position with United Airlines, became a flight attendant, a great job to see the world. Did that for a number of years, and then in 1983, as I said, I joined the California Highway Patrol. It's been a lifelong experience to be in law enforcement, and it was an amazing career. And I'm proud to say that in my 28 years on the street, I never got one citizen's complaint. I was able to negotiate, if you will, have a conversation, and quite honestly, just work it out with them so that, well, you might find it unusual. People would say, you know, I don't know why I'm saying this when I give them a ticket, but they say, thank you. And I go, I'm just doing my job. And if you learn from this and can be a better driver, then the world's a better place. So as I said, my name is Mark Mazzano. I am a candidate for Reading City Council, and I'm looking forward to presenting the information to you today or this evening, depending on when you're watching it. And I hope to get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a community volunteer around town. I've participated and organized several mutual aid projects, and so I've developed a network throughout town. I'm an independent, so I'm willing to talk to anybody. I believe a good idea is a good idea.
I believe my medical training actually provides me with excellent critical thinking skills. I have years of experience in evaluating symptoms, gathering data, making a diagnosis, and researching best practices, implementing a treatment, and then evaluating the outcome. And those same skills are completely transferable to government. I also think from a systems approach, a big picture holistic approach, and that's also necessary for government. Other skills include my years of experience on boards, being able to read complex budgets and financial statements, as well as evaluating policy. But beyond that, I think one of my best skills and most powerful skills is my involvement and connection within the community. I have broad ties within the medical community, within the faith community, with the chamber, with Viva downtown, many of our downtown organizations. And no one council member can do anything on their own. They need to have a majority of council members voting with them. They need support from staff, and they need community involvement. The reality is that government rarely does anything on its own in a vacuum. They are involved with the community. For example, when the city was going to cut the NPU officers back in 2016, I approached some of my contacts in the faith community and was able to develop the Reading Public Safety Campaign, which raised $1.2 million to keep those officers on board for 2 years. And when our city was unable to get the Reading to LA flight, working with United, I knew some people in the community who had deep ties to United, so I was able to go to them and fly with them out to Chicago and appeal to those United Airline executives to get that Reading to LA flight. So that is an important skill. That's an important asset. And as we look at issues like homelessness, you need council members who have deep ties in the community to be able to solve those types of problems.
Leadership. I mean, I was a pit boss when I got on with the casino industry. I started at the bottom carrying change, and through promotions along the way ended up being a pit boss overseeing 21 dealers, crap dealers, roulette dealers, and the such. And I love that job, actually. When I got to the police department, I was an officer and a training officer, and then became a supervisor. And it was very enjoyable. But leadership is not just being in a place of position, but it's being able to do leadership even in the middle. When I did my Kids Corner program, I had my own office. I had a staff of 20 that reported to me, even though they weren't police department personnel, they came from those other ones, from the other sheriff's office, Sparks Police, Dignity Health, Social Services, and the Health Department, and we all worked together. So I think leadership, I think the ability to make good decisions. Anybody can make a decision. You can flip a coin and say, heads, I make this decision, tails, I make this decision. But you make decisions not based on feeling, but based on fact, information, policy, funds available, and you make a good, proper decision. So I think leadership, decision making, and one thing we lack a lot is the ability to say no. When we don't have the right stuff and the right things in place, you have to say no. You have to have that fortitude to say, we don't have the funds for that. We have to take control of our funds. We have to be fiscally responsible.
The worst thing I am in the world is I'm awful at self-promotion. But this is a job that innately in my heart, I really want to do because I know I would be good at it. Because, like my melancholic man, Mr. Lincoln, he was an empathetic listener who was excellent at communicating. And I feel that those are some of the best qualities that we could have in some of our local political leaders to deal with some of the issues that we have in our municipality. So I am an open, altruistic, pragmatic, open-minded, inclusive individual that really wants to make a reciprocating relationship between a political leader and a citizen, because at the heart of this nation, that is what backs our Constitution and makes it as strong as it is. So I bring resilience, strength, enthusiasm, and I can be self-deprecating at times, so a very serious sense of humor, which in itself is even funny to say. So I have a lot of qualities that I think as a citizen, I'm a real person. I know nobody outside of, my family. I have no special interests, and I really, truly only want to fight for the people, my hometown, the city of Reading.
So the skills, a lot of my experiences, I think, are very important to the City Council. I have a long history with our city government. I started attending City Council meetings in 2006. I served as a City Commissioner for over 7 years and chaired 2 city commissions before I won a seat on the council in 2016. So I know where the city has been over the past 15 years, and therefore I have a good idea of where we can go. My military service, I think, is very important. Being able to be a team player and mission focused, that has been, I think, a critical element, especially in the last 4 years with some of the emergencies that we've seen, such as the car fire, the COVID-19 pandemic. But having that skill set, I think, has been very, very important. I've served on numerous community boards throughout the city. And some in the county. I've been on school boards, so I have a strong understanding of our community. And I'm a business owner, so I'm uniquely qualified in that I know the opportunities and challenges that our businesses face in Reading. I would say more specifically, though, I have a very deep understanding of technology at nearly every level. I built my first website in 1994. I did combat communications in the United States military. I've built networks, I've built software solutions, and in today's world, I think that's such a critical need for our government, is that strong knowledge of technology to help improve services for our citizens. And so I would say those are probably the skills that uniquely qualify me for the position.
Well, certainly 28 years in the front lines with the California Highway Patrol. I've worked with allied agencies on 2 different task forces. The first one was patrolling the city streets of San Bernardino. Typical highway patrolman patrols the freeways. We investigate traffic accidents. We arrest drunk drivers. But when you work in the city, you've got to do everything. And I had the fortunate opportunity to work in the city of San Bernardino on a multi-agency task force. When you step into somebody else's backyard, they have their own rules, and you need to be able to get along and work with them. I also participated in a task force, and again, a multi-agency task force, targeting the professional vehicle thief. I spent 6 years doing that. And I worked in a majority of different cities, all within San Bernardino and Los Angeles County. So when I was able to work with those agencies, the end result was arresting the professional vehicle thief. So I bring those skills. I also bring the fact that I was a supervisor and a manager for the California Highway Patrol. I was a sergeant in Redding, and I was also an acting lieutenant for the last 7 months of my career. I managed over 150 uniformed and non-uniformed personnel in that command. I bring a desire to continue my public service, my commitment and my passion for people. I want to be a full-time council member. Nobody does that. I want to do that. I'm retired. I have no other commitments. So as a full-time council member, you're right, I want to work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, but I like to play golf. So if I play golf on Wednesday, I'm going to work 11 to 7. I want to be available to the constituents. I want to listen to them. I need their advice. I need for them to bring me their problems, bring me a solution, and I'll try to make it work. And if I can't make it work, I'll tell them why, and I'll say, let's go back to the drawing board and come up with an idea and see if we can make it work. And that's what I'll bring to our city council.
So I have a several-point plan to address housing, one of that being a Housing First program, which, as I mentioned, it saves taxpayer money, but it also solves the problem. Once people are housed, they're able to seek medical attention that they need. They're better able to recover from trauma and then seek employment and maintain their position. I would also be in favor of enacting rent control and putting a moratorium on rents and mortgages during the COVID epidemic, because nobody should be worried about losing their home during this crisis.
Lack of affordable housing in our state is a big issue. Building a home in California is expensive due to regulatory laws of the state, and we have not been able to keep up with the housing supply for decades, which has compounded the problem. The city provides low-income housing vouchers to we have over 1,500. The problem is there are not enough units to use those vouchers. So we really need to increase the supply. One of the good things that I'm really pleased to announce is that the city has really stepped up its game in the last few years. We have over 150 affordable housing units in construction right now. There are over 500 that have been recently built, are in the planning stage, or will be built within the next year. And so we need to do more of that type of thing. I think we need to definitely increase that. Another recent development has been ADUs, accessory dwelling units, otherwise known as granny suites, and I support making it easier for residents to build ADUs, which would increase our housing supply. Right now, the city is contracting out with some architects to be able to provide pre-approved ADU plans that citizens can use for free, and that will allow them to build cheaper and easier. And I think that's going to be another way we increase affordable housing. So we need to continue to work with staff and get those grants available for gap funding to build more affordable units, and I think we can do that.
Affordable housing, one of my pet peeves. When I was, like I said earlier, when I came back, there is really no noticeable affordable housing. A few things we can do. Taxes and fees, mostly fees. If you look at the fee schedule, before you even start building, builders have to push out 30 grand or more. And if you are a small builder and you can't have all that money pushed out and wait till they can pay on the back end, you're out. I've talked to some builders and they can't do some of these jobs because of the fees that are associated with that. So I would reduce taxes and fees. I have some acquaintances that wanted to build over 100 units, apartments, and were unable to do so because of the fees. We can't tax our people. The average income is $44,000 a year for a family of four. It doesn't do us any good. We need to expand our housing to bring in some taxes. So I am very much in favor of doing that. And I would go back to this acquaintance that I know and ask him to come again and try to work with these builders, because there are a lot of builders out there that want to build housing. There's 400, 500 houses going in off Rancho Road. I went and looked at them. The 1,600 square foot house is over $400,000. We need affordable housing. We have to have affordable housing. Everybody wants a house. It'd be great to have one. I mean, I make over $44,000 and I can't even afford a house. So there's lots of ways that you can't explain in 2 minutes to do that, but taxes and fees, getting people the ability to come in with their own stuff with the smaller groups and build the houses that they want. Apartments are very applicable to affordable housing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for asking me that, John. So being that I've never been in the position of working as a city council member, I think the promotion side of it would be awesome if collectively our members got together and promoted the affordable housing that we already have as a resource to individuals who maybe are unsheltered and have some other issues with that. So that's on the promotion side of it. As a city council member, I do understand that when I am on the council, I know a lot of what my special interests are would be what some of the issues we deal with. And it's affordable housing is huge, because I would like for people outside of our city limits to know that if you come here, that we are a city that has amenities that you can utilize, whether you be sheltered, not sheltered. I am somebody who lives in a family of 6 people and makes $46,000 a year, and that's not easy. So affordable housing is important, and I think promotion of it is important. And I would say that so far, the way the city of Reading has dealt with the homeless or affordable housing issue is more on the infrastructure side. So maybe your land deals for, let's say, like Woodlands 1 and 2. I'm hoping to be the more substantive side rather than the infrastructure, to get our affordable housing resources out to our constituents, citizens, residents. So I thank you for asking me that, John.
The first thing that we did, I think that was really a historical precedent, was we made very significant reductions to our fees, especially as they relate to affordable housing, so multifamily housing, duplexes and quadplexes, the additional dwelling units, which are formerly known as the mother-in-law flats. We have changed the policy significantly to make those more easy to develop, to reduce fees. The mother-in-law flats, there are no fees to put those in now. So we have many solutions now that investors are taking note of to create more of that housing. Streamline the process. We've done very well on grants with the city and partnering with nonprofits and other groups. So I think we need to continue to pursue grant money to bring more of that housing, and again, pursue the partnerships with the nonprofit community. Many of our projects are city partnerships with nonprofits in the area to make those projects happen. So I'll continue to push for those policies and really push to get more affordable housing in the city.
Well, it's in short supply here. You're going to find people are wanting to move to Reading right now, and it's easy to find a job for some people. But it's not easy to find a house. There's no houses out there that are under $300,000. I've talked to the realtors. That's what they're looking for. So what do we have to do to fix that? You have to incentivize it. You've got to give builders opportunities to come into this area and start producing. And you can do that in a couple of ways. Again, tax incentives work for developers. The fees that we charge for development are excessive in some areas. Not in all areas, but in some areas. I think we could look at that and make it a little more affordable. The fees right now, I think, for a 3-bedroom house are about $43,000 before you break ground. I've had discussions with our city manager. A lot of those fees are not under his control, like a school impact fee. But we have to look at that. And in order for us to offer those incentives, I think the city needs to jump in with both feet and say, hey, we've got to start providing affordable housing, not just the single family homes, but some high density housing that's more affordable for the younger people that aren't ready to buy their first home. And if we can do that with incentives through the city, we've got money, and we can look through grants from Sacramento and certainly from Washington as we move people out here from the Bay Area. I think it's an easy thing to fix. It'll take some work. But with the right people and the willingness to set aside their personal agendas, a lot can get done.
Some of the biggest challenges we're going to face within the next 4 years are climate change, which will continue to get worse. Fire seasons have been getting worse year by year, so we will need adequate fire protection. We're going to need to mobilize our whole community to do this. Housing is a big crisis. There's a crisis in housing. Rents are unaffordable. They've skyrocketed in town recently. We will need to enact some form of rent control. We will need housing first programs, a green public works program to get people to work.
I believe our three biggest challenges are public safety, homelessness, and a low median income. I'm going to address the low median income first because I believe that's a driver for the other two problems. And if we can fix that, we can provide increased solutions for those issues as well. In the next 10 years, 70% of the jobs in California will be in STEM, and so we need to make sure that we have really good workforce development. One of the things that I did is approach some of my relationships at Bethel and about developing a coding school to create workforce development for the community. That birthed Bethel School of Technology, which won some awards with Newsweek last year as one of the best coding camps in the United States. We need to continue to work with workforce development. I also went up to Bend, Oregon, and spent 3 days up there meeting with economic leaders to discover how did they transform their economy as they had a similar economy and barriers that Redding has had. And one of the things they did that was so exciting is they really invested in their downtown, in their parks, their trails, and in their riverfront. And we can do the same here. I will continue to focus on things that do that. Public safety is another one of our issues, and we have hired 7 officers. I will continue to look at hiring more staff. I would like to see us develop a downtown policing unit similar to the NPU, as well as a mental health crisis response team with trained mental health officers. And I think that we can do more there. The last is homelessness, and I think we're going to be talking about unsheltered folks in another question, so I will pause there because I think I'm out of time. Thank you.
Well, I believe there are 5 main. The top issue that I see, and that everyone I've spoken to, is homelessness. Without exception, everyone I speak to says homelessness is their number one issue. Crime, I think, is, they're right together. I ran a program in Reno called Kids Corner, and the goal was child abuse and neglect prevention, homeless children, homeless families. And the way we were able to make a big impact is we went out and sought them out. We connected with them, got them to trust us. It wasn't enforcement, it was helping them on the front end. It's much easier to help somebody on the front end as opposed to on the back end. We don't want to arrest you, we want to help you. So we were able to gather a group of companies to come help us, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but the police department, sheriff's office, Sparks PD, Washoe County Health Department, Social Services, and Dignity Health, all were part of our group to come. And we went out every Monday through Friday, and we would park in a location and we'd gather people to us, help them with paperwork, give them rides. Whatever they needed help with, we would help them. And that was a program that I started from the very beginning. And that's one of the challenges I see in what I would do here. You need 3 things. You need people, you need finances, and you need resources. Money won't solve the problem, but you need money to solve the problem. So that's what I would do. I'd begin to go out, I would gather people to this cause, because there's crime and homelessness there. It's not a crime to be homeless, but there is a lot of crime going on within that community. So I would go out with them, build trust, and work on that in that way.
So I am running for city council, and I understand I would be one of 5 members on this council. And my understanding of the position that I would be appointed to, if I'm so lucky, I do understand that I would be remiss if I could forebode any sort of future outside of, if you can only imagine, if somebody had asked you 5 years ago what you would be doing in 5 years, I guarantee nobody would have said isolated because of a pandemic. We have a lot of uncivil national anger towards some of the situations going on. So potentially in the next 4 years, while I sit in that position that I would be so blessed to sit in, I'm open to know that anything is possible. We just recently had a fire-nado, a snowmageddon. We've had a lot of issues that as a community we've had to work together. And I just want for people to understand that we can work together. So no matter what happens, I don't want to say one way or another, but I know I'll be ready to do whatever needs to be done for the citizens or the residents of Reading.
The two biggest challenges that I see in the next 4 years are public safety and affordable housing. We are still understaffed from where we were when the recession started over 10 years ago in both our police and fire departments. So we need about 20 more police officers to get our police department to minimum staffing levels so that we can respond to crime, that our response times are where they should be, so that our citizens know that then when they make a call to our police department that somebody's going to show up promptly and that they will have their life and their property protected. And to me, that is the number one priority of the city government. Our fire department, we've made huge strides within the fire department, and a few of our stations have 3-man teams per engine. We still need about 9 firefighters to fill all those engines throughout the city so that we can have 3-man teams on every engine throughout the city. And that is also a very serious priority for me, and I think something that we can definitely achieve over the next 4 years. Housing has become a tremendous issue, as everyone knows, and we need to continue to explore every possible way to see more housing in Reading, especially affordable housing. We've done a lot of good work and made a lot of policies over the last 4 years to encourage more housing. And we have about 550 affordable housing units that are in development right now. But we are seeing a lot of pressure on the market. We're seeing a lot of pressure on the rental market, and that is a critical component to having a healthy community, is having the right amount of affordable housing for our citizens. So public safety and affordable housing I see as the two biggest challenges that we will face over the next 4 years.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been talking to a lot of people since I decided to run for city council. I probably talk to anywhere between 50 and 75, maybe even 100 people a day. If you're walking, I'm talking to you. And my question to them is, what do you feel is the most important issue facing the city of Reading right now? And I'm going to tell you, overwhelmingly, the homeless situation, the crisis. And that's what everybody tells me. They're concerned about law enforcement, and they're concerned about the COVID-19 and the economic situation that we're currently dealing with. But homelessness comes out first. And I'm going to tell you, doing my research, I can remember last year at the State of the City address, Councilwoman Winter, our mayor at the time, said that was beyond the scope of city government. I disagree. I disagree. If it's not our problem, whose problem is it? Do you think the government's going to come in here and fix it? The federal government or the state government? No. They're going to look at people like us who are attempting to deal with it, and then they're going to offer their assistance. Now, I've looked at programs across the nation in preparation for running for city council, and there are a lot of programs out there that are doing some good things. And I would like to say that we could bring some of those ideas here to Reading. I'd like to form a task force. Most importantly on that task force, besides the city leaders, the county leaders, and the civic leaders, and certainly the religious leaders, I would want to put some homeless people on that task force, just so we could see what's important to them. They deserve a roof over their head. Are we going to be able to get them all under a roof? No, there are people out there for various reasons that have no desire to be under a roof and will never accomplish that. But for the bulk of them, we can. And I think that's going to face a lot of scrutiny over the next 4 years from our citizens.
Okay, yes, some of the ideas I have for addressing the housing crisis are, first off, implementing a Housing First program. I've done the research, and in similarly sized cities, both smaller and larger, and they seem to save taxpayer money quite significantly. On average, we spend about $15,000 per person to keep them homeless. That figure comes from incarceration costs, health care, law enforcement costs, etc. If we just simply housed people, we would spend about $7,500 per person. So we would save money while at the same time actually solving the problem instead of trying to sweep it under the rug.
Homelessness is a big deal. It's not a unique problem to Reading. In fact, the entire West Coast is struggling with homelessness. There are numerous causes for homelessness, and some of them are quite complex, very difficult to fix at a city level, such as mental health, drug addiction, and a broken justice system. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't still work on that issue and try things that can help move people out of homelessness. One of the projects that I'm working on right now and I'm supportive of is the micro shelter project that is in the planning commission phase right now. We're looking at making that program work, and that will provide shelter in combination with wraparound services at organizations like churches. And I could see that maybe working throughout the community as you get agencies that can help support people out of homelessness. So that will provide a place for people to stay safely, to put their stuff, and to get the services that they need to move out of homelessness. The county is also working on a home key program that's going to provide more transitional housing. The city has a house that we are rehabbing right now to provide more transitional housing. And one of the areas I'm probably most excited about are some of the changes that are happening at the county. The county recently hired a housing director, Jacqueline Disney, who came from the city, has a lot of connections with the city, and I see some movement and opportunities ahead for the city to partner with the county, and we're also going to need heavy community involvement. This is a community-wide problem, and it's going to take all of us to solve it, and we need to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just continue a little brief. What I did with Kids Corner is we began to go door to door to door to door, knocking on doors and building trust with these families, teaching them how to have well baby checkups, giving them shots, helping them manage going into WIC and getting food for their kids. And then in the process, they began to trust us, so they began to tell us about what was going on in their communities. And we were able to help them through building trust. So as we go out into the field here, you have to have people that will connect with them. Because let's just say, for example, if we have 10 people that are homeless because of the car fire, all 10 of them now have a different reason why they're still homeless. They lost their home, they lost their job, they're having alcohol or drug addiction issues, they're having PTSD issues. There's a plethora of challenges out there that you can't learn and you can't work through by a survey. You can't look or work through by sitting in your office. You have to actually go out and talk to them. And don't be afraid, go out and talk to them, learn what's going on in their lives, and begin to help them. I talked to a lady, her name was Lee. She's 57 years old, been homeless on the streets for 9 years, living in the alley by Sierra Central Credit Union downtown. She has a 37-year-old son. And one of the things we do, we don't want to boot you out, but if you have a place where you can go, a family who will take you and connect you, where you can have resources, where you can have the ability or the chance to have success, we will give you a ticket and ride out. So there's lots of things we can do to help that population that are living outside.
So for 3 years I've been speaking legislatively, trying to get something to change. In my mind's eye, because I think everybody's an individual, I think of those that are underserved, unsheltered, struggling in life, because life sometimes can be so overwhelming. So in trying to speak at the boards, I've tried to conclude some of my thoughts, and I'll share with you. So when an individual makes a succession of choices and becomes homeless, there are many variables at stake. That said, as a Reading City Council member, I would work hard to better understand the Lantrimum-Petris Short Act, which is an act in 1967 Ronald Reagan put into law. And I think any politician, it would behoove them to understand that so we can best deal with our homelessness issues. So as a Reading City Council member, I would work diligently with other council members to get the much-needed community grants for the funding of a resource-centric center to help those underserved, unsheltered individuals that struggle making choices in life. I appreciate that the City of Reading has done land deals with Woodlands 1 and 2, but I'm of the mindset that that's the infrastructure part of dealing with some of the homelessness crises. I am impassioned to get to the heart of the issues, and I want to help make City Council a council that will actually do something and help people with a hand up, not a hand out. So thank you for asking me that very important question, Jeanette. Thank you.
So just prior to the COVID pandemic, the city was working to establish a homeless day center on 273 that would accommodate up to 175 people during the day. And that was something that I was very supportive of, and I would like to continue to see the pursuit of that project once we're able to do so safely with public health and the COVID pandemic. But having a day center that would support that many of our homeless population would have a huge impact on our city. It would be noticeable throughout the streets if there were 175 people that were able to find shelter during the day from the elements. So I would really like to see that project come to fruition. The city, we will continue to partner with the nonprofit community. We've done a bunch of amazing projects to bring more affordable housing and homeless housing into Reading. So we will always pursue those good partnerships with the nonprofits in our community to bring more housing to Reading. And so I think that there are a lot of solutions that we can continue to pursue as a city. We will continue to work with the county government on solutions that they have for the homeless population. But this is a serious issue that everybody wants to fix. And so we're always looking for new solutions to make that happen. But as far as right now, I would like to see the day center materialize because I think that would have a significant impact on our homeless population in the city.
Well, I think it's more than an issue. It's a crisis. It's a crisis. When people can't do what they want to do because they're afraid. Being former law enforcement, I'm not really afraid of the homeless people. I feel for them. And I happen to know that the number one reason they're homeless, certainly nationwide, is because they lost their job. So what can we do to help them get a job? That's a big question. And I think as a member of the City Council, we can work towards that. I also think that our current mayor, Adam McElvain, failed to mention the homeless problem in this year's State of the City address. Is it not important to him to be in that specific event that is so big for this city? I think we need to incentivize building high-density housing. Utah reduced their homeless population by 72% in cooperation with the Mormon Church, local government, federal government, and incentives to local business. They've got over 2,000 people homeless under roof. Why can't we do that? Stockton got a $12 million grant. Why can't we get $6 million? We have to apply for those grants. I'm not the guy that wants to raise the taxes to deal with this crisis. I want to do it with a task force and then grants that we can get from both the federal and state government and try to impact it that way. And I think we'll have success.
Yes, I would definitely support a Citizens Oversight Committee with teeth for the RPD. I had been going to City Council meetings off and on since 2015. And back in 2015, they were voting on implementing body cameras for RPD, and they voted against it. I would have voted for the body cameras, and I support a Citizens Oversight Committee.
First, I'll say that Reading has a very professional culture in the police department, and overall, we get very few complaints about police misconduct. Most of the complaints that we do get actually about our police are a lack of response or a slow response time. Having said that, having opportunities or ways to get more citizen input into any area of city government is a good idea. And Chief Schuler has publicly stated that he would like to have more transparency and has been supportive of developing an advisory committee, and I would support that. I think that is in the works, and we will see more of that happening. That will become an opportunity for citizens to get involved with the police department, and I think that after COVID clears and social distancing clears, you'll see movement on that, which I would support.
Well, yes and no. I think it depends on the teeth of the enemy. A commission usually has oversight and gets involved and has authority. I would not be for that. I would be for an advisory board. where they can come in and just give you input without having an authority to make changes or challenges of what you do. But we also, I'm sure you guys already know, we also have the grand jury that has the ability to bring oversight into anything that we might want. So I am for an advisory type board, but not for a commission. There's big challenges in the way people see things, what happens, and you can just see all the stuff that we have going on in TV and how we have all of these differences in the way people see things, in the way they observe, and the evidence presented, and I want you to see this, but you want to see this. So I'm for advisory oversight, not for authoritarian oversight.
So that's a question right now that I think is pertinent to the sign of the times. And when I started speaking at the Shasta County boards on September 11th, September 9th, I believe, a gentleman I had just had a conversation with the day before, 4 officers shot him, and he was a mentally ill individual who needed our help. Police were called. Now, I understand the situation as best as I can understand with the information that I've been given, so I make no mention to the situation itself, but I think it would behoove our Reading City Council to get in order a board of citizens, and I would like it to be an extremely diverse group of people to have inclusive conversations so we can figure out best how to help Chief Schuler with some of the issues we face. And if you can see forward into the future, mentally ill individuals who commit crimes, this is at the heart of what I want to stop. And so I do think that this is a very innovative idea where a lot of people can get on board, share ideas, and we can grow to get the best thing possible for our community. Because one thing's true, as a political leader, not necessarily a politician, please understand, all I want for all of our citizens, no matter the creed, the color, the paycheck, sheltered or not, everybody, please understand, wants to be heard, and I truly want to listen. As I said before, to give a hand up, not a hand out.
I would consider that. I would need more information on what that committee or commission would look like. I'm very supportive of transparency in government, and I also love to see any citizen who wants to get involved in their local government to do so, and I think that the more citizens that we do have involved, the better. So that is definitely something that I would consider, but would need to know more details before I could take a position.
Absolutely. What you're talking about is a Citizens Oversight Committee. I've participated in those as a member of the California Highway Patrol. So what you have to do is you have to get like-minded individuals, the community leaders, the civic, the business leaders, and someone from law enforcement, perhaps 1 or 2, and you form an oversight committee, and then you work with the chief of police to establish the parameters for when that committee is going to get involved in police actions. Not only do you have to confer with the chief, you need to talk to their union, because there are rules when it comes to working with law enforcement. And if you're going to have a Citizens Oversight Committee, you need to play by those rules. There are legal ramifications. And so for the citizens, an extra pair of eyes, if you will, overlooking specific incidences that are outlined in your operational plan, absolutely, it's an excellent idea. Excellent idea. It's not like we're trying to get somebody or catch somebody. It's trying to provide the best service to our citizens. And that comes from, well, it comes from having a conversation about what's going on. It comes from being able to set aside your personal agenda for the good of the city. I believe that's an excellent way to do that with our police department. With what's going on right now in America, the spike in crime, the riots, those aren't peaceful protests, those are riots. And they resulted from police actions. So had a Citizens Oversight Committee been in place prior to those incidents occurring, perhaps we could have avoided that. It's certainly possible. I believe that if they would have had a sergeant on scene in Minnesota, he would have put that situation to an end that fast. It didn't happen. It's unfortunate. And now we're suffering from it.
Thank you. Yes. So with a housing with our housing program and with rent being controlled and not astronomical, people would have money to put back, reinvest into the economy. I support the creation of a green public works program that would essentially act as a job guarantee. Certain jobs that would entail would be a mass scale weatherization program for residential and commercial buildings, year-round essential fire protection, planting community gardens in each neighborhood to promote community self-sufficiency and food security. And I would also want to attract union businesses, cooperatively owned businesses, incentivize local businesses to prop up so we can keep our economy local.
Well, actually, in the past 4 years, we have made tremendous progress. I don't know if the public realizes, but the city is in the best financial shape it's been since the recession. We have budgeted very cautiously and we have budgeted leanly. In the past 3 years, revenue has exceeded expenses in the city budget, including this year, even with COVID. We've reorganized top director and department positions to make them more efficient and better serve the city. We've worked with our labor groups to negotiate employees picking up a greater share of their benefit costs, as well as being fairly frugal with raises. We've increased our rainy day fund, our reserve fund, from 5 to 10%, and we've actually created a funding stream for capital repairs, something the city has actually never had. We are implementing a program right now to make all cities more energy efficient. That will save money. And all of these things are good, but their focus has primarily been on cuts. How do you cut the pie and make the pie, existing pie, in smaller pieces? I believe we actually need to make a bigger pie, and so my focus is on increasing revenue for the city. And we can do that by increasing the number of skilled workers that we recruit to the area. Some of the biggest barriers business have to expansion and creating those living wage jobs is the inability to recruit. So I will certainly focus on that, as well as bringing back our Reading to LA flight service. That is also a key thing that businesses need to expand in our area. Those are the areas I will focus in the next 4 years.
Like I just said, the family of 4 in Reading makes average $44,000 a year. The tax base, you can't prosper your community on the backs of people making $44,000. Just can't do it. So what I would do, expand housing, like we just talked about, expand jobs. I love what they're doing down here. I love the building, but all this building going on down here is not going to produce a whole lot of jobs. It will produce a good property tax base, which will help, but we need jobs. I've been told there are many people that have been turned away. I talked to secondhand information about a company that wanted to move over from Switzerland to build beams, and they were turned away. There's a lot of give and take, and I am told that when you deal with the city, it's the city's way or the highway. So I would really encourage us to be more amiable to people wanting to come in and build that may be from out of the area. And I'd also, jobs, housing, to spread out our tax base. That's how we and how else do we get money into the coffers? You know, property tax, sales tax, transient, occupational taxes. We need to promote our tourism again. I know it's COVID, but tourism is going to be one of the main factors coming about. 300 days of sunshine, trails galore, lakes, snow. All of these things promote our city.
Okay, so this is one of those questions in the last 3 years speaking legislatively at council and board. I never wanted to really put my voice in the financial department because I felt that dealing with the people was more important to me at that time. However, I really do appreciate that Mr. Tippin basically advised me that because there is a shot, there's always a shot. I'm a poker player, and if you've got a chip and a chair, you always got a prayer. So he gave me some information, and I really do appreciate it because it is the perspective from how our council works. We have a manager and then 5 council members, and we ask questions. He does the legwork and the management side of things. And so I wanted to make sure that the 3 things I chose would be in line with what his directives are. And I think one that really struck out to me was to develop a strategy for funding general fund capital investment needs. So that means bringing more money, into the city of Reading. So one thing I would like to say is I've never been a city council member before, but I promise you that for the last 3 years I've been learning, because Einstein told me politics is harder than physics. So I literally challenged myself to learn politics. And one thing I do know is that I have a friend in Mr. Tippin, and I would work diligently with him and the other council members to make it so we could have our best financial foot forward into our future.
I think the council's done a fantastic job. We are on firm financial footing right now. Our reserve account is healthy. Our revenue streams are very steady, even through the pandemic, which has been a great thing to see happen. We are still following very closely what's happening with our revenue, and we'll have a much better picture of how the pandemic has affected us financially this January. So I think it's something that we can continue to work on. But we've been budgeting very conservatively now for about 2 or 3 years. So our revenues are generally above what we projected. So I'd like to continue to see that happen. And again, to do everything we can to encourage and stimulate the economy so that we see higher sales tax revenue, we see higher property tax revenue, TOT tax. We have seen huge gains in the cannabis tax that was approved by the voters in 2018. And that has been able to bolster public safety, both our police and fire departments, and to help with our reserve account. So we are on stable financial ground right now. And unless we have a pretty serious 2 years in a row of very poor revenue, I don't see city services being affected at all.
I think the first thing I'd want to do is take a seriously hard look at how we're spending our money. I think that's important. Right now with this COVID-19, we're putting a lot of things aside to help the economy recover. But if you look at the way we're spending our money, and I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, Adam McElvain brought up the idea of privatizing the internet, taking it away from people like Charter and AT&T. Well, they already brought that high fiber fast internet here. It's out at Stillwater Business Park now. But it's gone on for 4 years, and now a couple of weeks, months before the election, he wants $800,000, and they just approved it to do a pilot program. $800,000 to do a pilot program that, even if successful, is going to have to go to the voters. And the build out is probably going to be $10 million. So we're going to have to float a bond to pay for that. And we're talking about an infrastructure right here in the downtown area. We're not talking about people that live in the outlying areas of the city. We're talking about the downtown area. You know, I was told that it makes the city look more attractive for developers. It's already here. We have it with Charter and with AT&T. You know, you look at other cities that have tried this. I found 12 examples of local governments that have tried to privatize the internet that have failed, and the constituents are still paying for it years later. I think that's wrong. I'd also like to say that we're 20 positions down in our law enforcement department. Do you know our crime rate, our net, is 70% higher than the national average in Reading? You're more likely to be a victim of a crime in this city, 1 in 142. I don't find that attractive. Neither do potential investors that want to relocate here. When I talk to the administrators at the different hospitals and they're trying to recruit doctors, they don't want to come here because the crime rate's too high. But yet we want to spend money doing this when we should be doing this, and that means building our police department and reducing those numbers. So looking at that, and then looking for ways to bring in more investment. More investment means more taxes.
So I'm running to give a voice to those who have been ignored before. I seek to represent the working class, the poor. I've seen the city council time and time again vote against the interests of the working class, from issues from the body cameras for RPD that they've voted against. They voted against the shower bus, which they had done their homework and proved to be effective. I've seen them talk about in open air an internment camp for the homeless. I think that's unacceptable that those words were even uttered and that idea was even considered. I'd like to challenge that narrative that we have in local politics, that only the business class matters. If the working class doesn't have money to reinvest into the economy, then our economy will continue to languish. So I'm seeking to change that narrative.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. They do such a good job. I've always been impressed with their forums, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak here. I am proud of my service on the city, and I see a great future for our city. As we come out of COVID, there are actually some opportunities ahead of us, and the city needs council members, leaders who can grasp those opportunities, who have a track record and who have deep ties in the community to accomplish what we need to have happen in our city. So over the next 4 years, I will continue to push for public safety and a financially sustainable budget. Those are key, but we need more than that to thrive. I will push for a vibrant downtown, added amenities to our parks and our trails that attract those skilled workers to move to our area. I will continue to look for areas for riverfront development and support of our businesses, entrepreneurs, our startup community. I will work with developers to increase more affordable housing supply, and I will continue to commit myself to work with the county and other community organizations to come up with solutions for homelessness. Together we can make Reading a vibrant city and a place where our children can make their dreams come true. You can find out more about me at juliewinter.com or on my Reading City Council Facebook page. Vote Julie Winter on November 3rd.
Thank you so much for having me today. I see that we have a plethora of challenges before us. There's some things we're doing good, and I kind of liken it to a boat. We're building this big ship, and on the top of the ship, everything's looking really pretty. But on the bottom of the ship, we have all these holes in the bottom of it. Homelessness, crime, high taxes and fees, no real affordable housing, and really a lack of jobs. So we need jobs for all skill sets, all salaries for people. We need affordable housing. Most affordable housing for $44,000 is right around $900. We need more of that. So I'm really running to be, I think I can help in those areas. They're my passion, my pet peeves that I want to bring a better understanding to the people on how these things work and how we can promote those things and how we can begin to prosper our people, begin to prosper. You know, we want to raise up the elevation of the average income, and we do that through jobs, not by bringing other people in with higher salaries. We want all of our citizens to prosper, all of them, not just some of them. I love people. I want to see them prosper. I want to see them passionate about their lives again. And that's what I'm all about. So I would appreciate your help. I'd appreciate your vote. And you can look me up on jackmunns.com and see what I'm all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you to the Women League of Voters. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for letting me speak my piece peacefully, because that's all I want. I'm interested, first and foremost, in the public safety of our constituents of the city of Reading. And it is a fervent, passionate wish of mine to be a part of our council to make the best decisions possible for all of our residents. And I am humbly so thankful and blessed to be given this opportunity to even run for a public city office. So from my heart to yours, and I wear this purple shirt because I want it to be pragmatic. And for me, it's a blending of the blue and the red. And it's about pragmatism, an action, a sensible action. And that's all I want to take for our citizens inside the city of Reading. So I thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Viva Downtown. Thank you, ladies, for all having me. Thank you.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. It's exciting to get to participate, and I want to thank everybody who watched today to find out more about the candidates and personally why I want to run for re-election. The last 4 years has been, there have been a lot of surprises, but there have been a lot of very positive things that have happened in our city as well. And there's still a lot of work to be done, and I would like to continue to do that for another 4-year term and would ask for your vote. And there are a lot of challenges. We still do have challenges with the homeless population and our housing. We definitely need to get more housing and public safety. You know, public safety can definitely be, we can definitely improve there. There's always room for improvement, and we're always looking for solutions to help improve that. So again, I want to thank everybody for their time and would ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This has been an outstanding opportunity to bring the issues before the voters. And I welcome that opportunity. I welcome the opportunity to speak with each and every one of you at your convenience. Like I said in the interview, I'm retired. I am available, and you can reach me through my website. It's Mezzano, M-E-Z-Z-A-N-O, the number 4, Reading.com. You'll also find my email there, which is the same thing, Mezzano for Reading at gmail.com. I don't have all the answers. I look to the voters. I look to the voters for their guidance and the direction. You tell me what you want me to do, and you tell me how you want me to do it. And that's the way I'm going to operate. I believe in full transparency in government. I exercised it and lived it in 28 years with the California Highway Patrol, and I'm willing to do that here in the city of Reading. And as I said earlier, full time. So you don't have to take off work to come and see me. Call me and let me know that you need a couple of minutes. Come to the office downtown, or let's meet for coffee. Every highway patrolman likes coffee, especially me. And we'll talk about the issue. You might have a better idea. I just talked to a gentleman the other day. I thought he had an excellent question. Until I had more background on it, I couldn't give him a good answer. I got the background I needed. I called him back and I said, we've got a great idea and we can make that happen. And we're talking about trees in this area. And what do? We need more of them. How do we get them? They want to bring in a mitigation program. They want to charge developers to put trees in the ground. I think it's a great idea. I didn't think it was a great idea if it was going to be a bill that I was going to have to pay or you were going to have to pay because of a tree that's in your front yard. Not the question. But I got the answers I needed. I got back to the constituent and I told him we've got a great idea. I'd like your vote. I'd appreciate it. You'll get the ballot somewhere around the 6th or 7th or on November 3rd. Have a great day.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Reading area and Viva Downtown, thank you all for your participation in this candidate forum for Reading City Council. Please vote on November 3rd. This concludes our candidate forum.